My name is Rohini, and I'm 32 years old. Growing up, I thought I had the perfect life. My father, Raghu, was my rock, my hero. He was always there for me, supporting me, encouraging me. I remember the countless hours we spent together, playing games, going on walks, and just talking about life. My childhood was idyllic, or so I thought. I grew up in a small house in the suburbs, surrounded by loving family and friends. My parents were high school sweethearts who worked hard to give me and my brother, Rohan, a comfortable life. My father was a successful engineer, and my mother was a dedicated teacher. They instilled in us the importance of education, hard work, and family values. My father was a bit of a traditionalist, but he was also modern enough to encourage me to pursue my dreams. He would often take me to the park and play cricket with me, teaching me the intricacies of the game. He'd cheer me on when I scored a goal or hit a six. Those were the moments I cherished the most. As I grew older, my father became more than just a parent to me. He was my mentor, my guide. He'd share stories about his own childhood, about the struggles he faced and how he overcame them. I admired his strength and resilience. I wanted to be just like him when I grew up. But as I look back, I realized that there were signs, subtle hints that something wasn't quite right. My father's frequent business trips, the hushed conversations with my mother, the occasional argument that would simmer beneath the surface. I dismissed them as normal, thinking that every family had their quirks. My childhood memories are filled with laughter and joy, but also with moments of uncertainty. I remember asking my mother about my father's trips, and she'd reassure me that everything was fine. I trusted her, trusted him. I had no reason not to. As I entered my teenage years, I began to notice more inconsistencies in my father's stories. He'd tell me about his projects, but when I'd ask him about them later, he'd change the subject or seem evasive. I brushed it off as work stress, but deep down, a small part of me wondered if there was more to it. Despite these doubts, I continued to idolize my father. I thought he was perfect, and I wanted to make him proud. I worked hard in school, got good grades, and participated in extracurricular activities. He beamed with pride at every parent-teacher conference, and I felt like I was walking on cloud nine. But little did I know, my world was about to come crashing down. The memories I cherished, the man I thought I knew, everything was about to change forever. And I was about to discover a truth that would shake me to my core. I was 12 when I first suspected my father wasn't telling me the truth. He told me he was working late nights at the office, but I saw him getting into a car with a woman I didn't recognize. At first, I thought maybe she was a colleague, but something about the way they laughed together made me feel uneasy. When I asked him about it later, he said she was just a friend from college. But when I mentioned it to my mother, she seemed hesitant to discuss it. "Your father works hard, Rohini. He's just stressed," she said. I didn't push the issue further, but the doubt lingered. A few weeks later, I overheard my father talking to someone on the phone. He said he was at a conference, but I recognized the woman's voice from the car. My father's words didn't match his actions, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. I started to notice other inconsistencies in his stories, and my trust began to erode. I didn't know what to believe anymore. One evening, I confronted him directly. "Dad, I saw you with that woman. Who is she?" I asked. He hesitated before responding. "She's just a colleague, Rohini. Don't worry about it." But I did worry. I worried that my father wasn't who I thought he was, and I wondered what else he might be hiding. I didn't want to believe my father was lying to me. I thought maybe I had misinterpreted the situation. Maybe the woman was just a colleague like he said. I wanted to trust him, to believe that he would never deceive me. So, I pushed the doubts aside and focused on my schoolwork and extracurricular activities. As the days went by, I noticed my father's behavior hadn't changed. He'd still come home late, saying he was working, and I'd see him making phone calls in hushed tones. But I didn't confront him again. Instead, I rationalized his actions, telling myself that he was under a lot of stress at work. My mother seemed to be going along with it too, not pushing him for details or questioning his whereabouts. I thought maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe everyone had secrets like this. I didn't want to be the one to disrupt our family's harmony. One evening, my father came home from one of his business trips and gave me a big hug. "Hey, kiddo, how was your day?" he asked, beaming with a smile. For a moment, I forgot about my doubts. I forgot about the woman and the phone calls. I just enjoyed the time with him, playing games and watching TV together. But as the night went on, I caught him checking his phone repeatedly, his expression changing whenever he saw a certain name or number. I felt a pang of uncertainty, but I pushed it aside again. I didn't want to think about it. The next day, I saw my mother's worried expression when she thought I wasn't looking. She was going through some papers on the kitchen counter, her brow furrowed in concern. I wondered if she knew something I didn't, if she suspected my father was hiding something too. I approached her cautiously, not wanting to pry. "Mom, is everything okay?" I asked. She forced a smile and said, "Yes, dear, everything's fine, just some work stuff." I nodded, accepting her answer. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I just didn't know what. As the days turned into weeks, the facade my father had built began to seem more and more convincing to me. I told myself that I was just being overly sensitive, that everyone had their secrets. But the doubts lingered, quietly gnawing at my trust. My father's words and actions didn't match, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something significant. I started to wonder if I was the only one who noticed or if everyone else saw it too. The tension in our home grew subtly, like a slow-building storm. My parents would have hushed conversations, their voices barely above a whisper. I'd catch snippets of their discussions, but they'd quickly change the subject when I walked into the room. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, unsure of what was real and what wasn't. But I didn't want to rock the boat. I wanted to keep the peace, to believe that everything was fine. So I continued to live in this state of uncertainty, torn between my love for my father and my growing distrust. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing. I couldn't keep living like this. I'd been noticing strange things about my dad lately. He'd leave for work in the morning, but sometimes I'd see him driving away in his car late at night. When I'd ask him about it, he'd just say it was work-related, nothing to worry about. My mom seemed to trust him, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One evening, I saw him on the phone, speaking in hushed tones. As soon as he saw me, he quickly ended the call. "Hey, kiddo, how was your day?" he asked, forcing a smile. But I could see the worry in his eyes. I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe I was just being paranoid. But then I saw a text message on his phone when he left it unattended. It was from someone named Sarah, and the message read, "Meet me at the usual place at 7. My heart started racing as I wondered who Sarah was and what she meant to my dad. I didn't confront him about it, but I couldn't stop thinking about it either. I felt like I was living in a world of uncertainty, where nothing was as it seemed. My dad's words and actions didn't match, and I didn't know what to believe. As the days went by, the tension in our home grew subtly. My parents would have hushed conversations, their voices barely above a whisper. I'd catch snippets of their discussions, but they'd quickly change the subject when I walked into the room. My mom seemed oblivious to it all, or maybe she just didn't want to know. She'd smile and laugh with my dad, but I could see the faint lines of worry on her face. I wondered if she suspected something too, or if she truly believed my dad's lies. I started to feel like I was walking on eggshells, unsure of what was real and what wasn't. My dad's behavior was becoming increasingly erratic, and I didn't know how much more I could take. I just wanted the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The doubts lingered, gnawing at my trust. I felt like I was torn between my love for my dad and my growing distrust. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing: I couldn't keep living like this. As I lay in bed that night, I heard my dad's car pull out of the driveway. It was 11 p.m. Where was he going? Who was he meeting? The questions swirled in my head, and I knew I had to find out the truth. I decided to follow him, to see where he was really going. My heart racing, I got dressed and crept out of the house, determined to uncover the secrets my dad was hiding. My dad's words were always laced with conviction, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. One evening, I saw him on the phone, speaking in hushed tones. As soon as he saw me, he quickly ended the call. "Hey, kiddo. How was your day?" he asked, forcing a smile. But I could see the worry in his eyes. I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe I was just being paranoid. But then I saw a text message on his phone when he left it unattended. It was from someone named Sarah, and the message read, "Meet me at the usual place at 7. My heart started racing as I wondered who Sarah was and what she meant to my dad. I decided to follow him, to see where he was really going. I got dressed and crept out of the house, careful not to make any noise. I followed his car at a distance, trying not to be seen. We drove through the city, finally stopping at a small motel on the outskirts of town. My dad got out of the car and looked around nervously before entering one of the rooms. I waited for a few minutes before getting out of my car and approaching the room. I listened at the door, trying to hear what was going on inside. But the voices were muffled, and I couldn't make out what they were saying. Suddenly, the door opened, and I had to quickly move out of the way. A woman came out, and I caught a glimpse of her face. It wasn't someone I knew, but there was something familiar about her. She got into a car and drove away, leaving me standing there wondering what was going on. My dad came out a few minutes later, looking around cautiously before getting into his car and driving away. I followed him back home, my mind racing with questions. Who was that woman? What was my dad doing at that motel? And why was he lying to me and my mom? As I watched him pull into the driveway, I felt a knot in my stomach. I knew I had to confront him, but I was scared of what I might find out. I went back to my room, trying to make sense of what I had seen. But the more I thought about it, the more questions I had. I lay in bed that night, my ears perked up, waiting for any sound that might give me a clue about what was going on. But the house was quiet, and I was left with only my thoughts to keep me company. The next morning, my dad was his usual self, smiling and laughing with my mom. But I knew the truth, and it was hard to look at him without feeling a sense of betrayal. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay. As we sat down for breakfast, my mom mentioned that she was going out of town for a few days. "Your dad will take care of you while I'm away," she said, smiling at him. But I knew that my dad wouldn't be taking care of me. He would be taking care of his secrets. I watched him as he smiled back at my mom, feeling a wave of anger wash over me. How could he do this to us? How could he lie to us like this? I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing. I was going to find out the truth about my dad's lies. As my mom packed her bags and left for her trip, I felt a sense of unease. My dad was in the kitchen making himself a cup of coffee. I went up to him and asked, "Dad, can I talk to you about something?" He turned around, a look of concern on his face. "What's up, kiddo?" he asked. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "I know about the motel." His expression changed, and for a moment, I saw a glimmer of fear in his eyes. I looked my dad straight in the eye and said, "I know about the motel." His expression changed, and for a moment, I saw a glimmer of fear in his eyes. But then, he composed himself and asked, "What are you talking about, Rohini?" "I followed you," I said, my voice firm. "I saw you with that woman. Who is she, Dad? My dad's face turned red with anger, but he tried to stay calm. Rohini, you're just a kid. You don't understand what's going on, he said. I understand that you're lying to Mom and me, I shot back. I understand that you're hiding something from us. My dad sighed and put down his coffee cup. Rohini, I know you're upset, but you need to trust me on this. I'm doing what's best for our family, he said. Our family? I repeated, my voice rising. You call this a family? You're lying to us, Dad. You're cheating on Mom. How can you do that? My dad's expression turned cold. Rohini, you're just a kid. You don't know what you're talking about. You're jumping to conclusions, he said. I'm not jumping to conclusions, I said, my anger boiling over. I saw you with my own eyes. I know what's going on, and I want to know why you're doing this to us. My dad shook his head. You're not listening to me, Rohini. I'm trying to protect you and Mom. I'm doing this for you, not for myself, he said. Protect us? I repeated, incredulous. By lying to us? By cheating on Mom? That's not protection, Dad. That's destruction. My dad's face turned red with anger, and for a moment I thought he was going to yell at me. But then he took a deep breath and said, Rohini, I understand that you're upset, but you need to trust me on this. I'm your father, and I know what's best for you. I don't trust you, I said, my voice firm. I don't trust you at all. My dad's expression turned cold, and he said, Fine. If that's how you feel, then maybe you should go to your room and think about what you've said. I nodded, turned around, and walked away. I knew that this conversation wasn't over. I knew that my dad would try to smooth things over, to make me believe that everything was okay. But I wasn't buying it. I knew the truth, and I was determined to expose it. As I walked to my room, I heard my dad's phone ring. He answered it, and I heard him say, I'll meet you at the usual place at 7. My heart sank. He was still lying to me, still hiding things from me, and I was determined to find out what was really going on. I sat on my bed, thinking about what I had learned. I knew that I had to be careful, that I had to gather evidence before I could confront my dad again. But I was determined to get to the bottom of things, no matter what it took. As I sat there, I heard my dad's car pull out of the driveway. He was leaving again, going to meet whoever it was he was meeting. I knew that I had to follow him, to see where he was really going. And I knew that I had to be careful, that I couldn't let him catch me. I waited for a few minutes before getting up and sneaking out of the house. I followed my dad's car at a distance, trying not to be seen. And as we drove through the city, I knew that I was getting closer to the truth. I followed my dad's car to a small office building on the outskirts of town. He parked his car and went inside, and I waited for a few minutes before getting out and following him. I peeked through the window and saw him sitting at a desk, talking to a woman I had never seen before. As I watched, he signed some papers and handed her a folder. She smiled and patted his hand, and I felt a knot in my stomach. Who was this woman, and what was my dad doing with her? I took out my phone and snapped a picture of them through the window. Then I quickly left, not wanting to be seen. As I walked back to my car, I realized that I had to know what was going on. I couldn't just confront my dad without evidence. I decided to investigate further, to see what I could find out about my dad's activities. I went home and started searching through his papers and files, looking for anything suspicious. And then I found it. A document that made my blood run cold. It was a financial statement, and it showed that my dad had been transferring large sums of money to a secret account. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it couldn't be good. I felt like my whole world was crashing down around me. I didn't know what to do or who to turn to. All I knew was that I had to get to the bottom of things. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, trying to process what I had learned. I couldn't eat or sleep, my mind racing with questions and fears. And then, just as I was starting to calm down, I heard my dad come home. He called out to me, asking if I wanted to talk, but I didn't answer. I just lay in bed, pretending to be asleep. I knew that I couldn't confront him yet, not until I had more evidence. But as I lay there, I couldn't shake the feeling that my dad was hiding something huge from me, and I was determined to find out what it was. The next morning, I decided to pay a visit to my mom's friend, Mrs. Kumar. She was a smart woman, and I knew she would know what to do. I told her everything about following my dad, about the woman, about the financial statement. She listened carefully, her expression growing more and more serious. When I finished, she said, "Rohini, I think you need to be careful. Your dad might be in a lot of trouble." "What kind of trouble?" I asked, my heart racing. "I don't know yet," she said. "But I'll help you find out. We'll get to the bottom of this, together." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I wasn't alone in this. I had someone who cared about me, someone who would help me uncover the truth. Together, Mrs. Kumar and I started investigating my dad's activities. We followed him, talked to people, and gathered evidence. And what we found shocked me to my core. My dad was involved in some shady business dealings, using company funds for his own gain. The woman I saw him with was a business partner, and the financial statement I found was just the tip of the iceberg. I felt like my whole world had been turned upside down. My dad, the man I trusted and admired, was a stranger to me, and I didn't know if I could ever forgive him. I sat in stunned silence, trying to process the revelation about my dad's business dealings. Mrs. Kumar's words echoed in my mind. "Your dad's involved in some shady business dealings." I couldn't believe it. The man I thought I knew, the man I admired and trusted, was a stranger to me. Mrs. Kumar's voice broke the silence. "Rohini, we need to decide what to do next. You can't just sit back and let your dad continue with this. It's not right." I nodded, determination rising within me. "You're right. I need to do something. But what?" Mrs. Kumar thought for a moment. "We can start by gathering more evidence. We need to know the full extent of his involvement." I nodded, a plan forming in my mind. "I'll start digging deeper. I'll find out everything I can about his business dealings." Mrs. Kumar smiled, a hint of admiration in her voice. "You're taking control, Rohini. That's the first step towards change." Over the next few days, I worked tirelessly to gather evidence. I pored over financial statements, talked to people who knew my dad's business associates, and followed leads. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to uncover the truth. As I dug deeper, I realized that my dad's actions had consequences far beyond our family. People had trusted him. People had invested in his business. And now they were losing everything. I knew I had to act fast. I couldn't just sit back and watch as more people got hurt. I decided to confront my dad, to make him see the damage he had caused. The confrontation was intense. My dad denied everything at first, but as I presented him with evidence, he began to crumble. "Rohini, I didn't mean to hurt anyone," he stammered. I looked at him, a mix of anger and sadness swirling inside me. "You didn't mean to hurt anyone? You've hurt so many people, Dad. People who trusted you, people who invested in your business." My dad slumped forward, his head in his hands. "I know, Rohini. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do." For a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy for him, but then I remembered all the lies, all the betrayal. "You need to make things right, Dad. You need to face the consequences of your actions." My dad looked up, a glimmer of determination in his eyes. "You're right, Rohini. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." In that moment, I knew that my life was about to change. I was taking control, standing up for what was right, and fighting for justice. It wouldn't be easy, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever came next, to make a difference, and to find my own path. I stared blankly at the wall, my mind reeling from the revelation about my father's business dealings. The words kept echoing in my head. Your dad's involved in some shady business dealings. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, the sense that everything I thought I knew about my father was a lie. My mom walked into the room, concern etched on her face. Rohini, how are you doing? You've been quiet since yesterday. I turned to her, searching for answers. Mom, why didn't you know about Dad's business dealings? Why didn't you suspect anything? My mom sat down beside me, her expression somber. I didn't know, Rohini. Your father always handled the finances. I trusted him completely. I felt a pang of anger. You trusted him? How could you trust him after everything he's done? My mom's eyes welled up with tears. I loved him, Rohini. I thought he was a good man. I never imagined he'd do something like this. I looked away, unsure of what to say. I was torn between my anger towards my father and my sympathy for my mom. She had been blindsided by his actions, just like me. As we sat there in silence, I realized that my life was about to change in ways I couldn't even imagine. My father's actions had consequences, and I would have to face them head-on. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing. I had to take control of my own life. I stood up, determination rising within me. Mom, we need to do something. We can't just sit here and wait for the consequences to catch up with us. My mom looked up at me, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. What do you suggest we do, Rohini? I took a deep breath, a plan forming in my mind. We'll face whatever comes next together. We'll deal with the consequences of Dad's actions and find a way to move forward. My mom nodded, a sense of resolve settling on her face. You're right, Rohini. We'll face this together. As we sat there, a sense of determination growing between us, I knew that my life was about to take a dramatic turn. I would have to navigate the complex web of my father's actions and find a way to forge my own path. It wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to take the first step. The days that followed were a blur of activity. We met with lawyers, accountants, and investigators, trying to untangle the mess my father had created. I was thrust into a world of financial jargon and complex transactions, but I was determined to understand it all. As I pored over documents and financial statements, I began to realize the full extent of my father's betrayal. He had put our family's assets at risk, lied to investors, and manipulated those around him. The more I learned, the more I felt my anger and hurt transform into determination. I was going to make sure that my father faced the consequences of his actions. I was going to make sure that those who had been hurt by his actions received justice, and I was going to find a way to move forward, to create a new life for myself and my mom. The journey ahead would be long and difficult, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever came next, to fight for what was right, and to forge a new path. I sat in the quiet park, surrounded by the gentle rustle of leaves and the soft chirping of birds. It had been months since my father's actions came to light, and I was still trying to process everything. But as I sat there, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I was starting to heal. I thought about all the things I had learned, all the ways I had grown. I had taken control of my life, stood up for what was right, and fought for justice. And in doing so, I had discovered a strength within myself that I never knew I had. As I walked out of the park, I felt a sense of determination. I was ready to move forward, to create a new life for myself. I didn't know what the future held, but I was excited to find out. I started taking classes, pursuing a new passion. I found solace in the routine, the structure. It was a welcome distraction from the chaos that had once consumed my life. My mom and I started rebuilding our lives too. We sold the old house, the one that held so many painful memories. We moved to a new place, a fresh start. As I looked around my new home, I felt a sense of pride. We had done it. We had faced the consequences of my father's actions, and we had come out stronger. I thought about my father, too. He was facing the consequences of his actions, and I hoped he was learning from his mistakes. I didn't know if I would ever forgive him, but I knew I had to move on. One day, I received a call from an old friend. "Hey, Rohini. I've been thinking about you lately. How are you doing?" I smiled, feeling a sense of gratitude. "I'm doing okay. I've been through a lot, but I'm healing." My friend listened as I shared my story, my struggles. And when I finished, she said something that stuck with me. "Rohini, you're stronger than you think. You've been through so much, and you're still standing." Her words resonated deep within me. I realized that I had a choice. I could let my past define me, or I could use it as a catalyst for growth. I chose the latter. As I hung up the phone, I felt a sense of resolve. I was going to keep moving forward, keep growing. I was going to create a life that was authentic, meaningful. And I was going to do it on my own terms. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was ready. I was ready to face whatever came next, to learn from my mistakes, and to forge a new path. I was ready to heal, to grow, and to thrive. I looked directly at you, my voice taking on a sense of urgency. What would you do if you discovered a shocking truth about someone you trusted? How would you handle the aftermath, the consequences, the weight of that knowledge? I shared my story, my struggles, my journey towards healing and growth. But I'm not alone in this. There are countless others out there who have faced similar challenges, similar pain. And I want to hear from you. Share your story, your struggles, your triumphs. Let's create a community, a support system, where we can lift each other up. Let's break the silence, the stigma, and the shame. Let's talk about it. You can share your thoughts, your experiences, and your insights. Let's start a conversation, a movement. Let's support one another, and let's grow together. Reach out, share your voice, and let's build a community that cares. We can make a difference together. Let's take the first step today. This is the end of my story. Thank you for watching, and if you like this kind of content, kindly leave us a like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Thank you.